but they do enjoy it. So this is a mural I created called Kapemini, which is in the city of Bloomington. Kapemini is a Dakota philosophy or concept called marrying. It represents that it's like two inverted triangles. It represents the idea that what happens below, above is reflected below. So to us, the Mississippi River is reflected above as the spirit road, which is the Milky Way. And so we are guided by our ancestors who traveled the Milky Way or the spirit road in the afterlife. And that's why our ancestors created burial mounds all along the Mississippi River to be close to and be closest to that spirit road and be guided to them and have that connection, as well as like Badote, which is the confluence of the Minnesota Mississippi River. They believe like this concept is like the strongest at that area. And if we look at my map, there's Oheawahi, which is a place much visited, and it means where they would often visit the burial mounds there to be, you know, it overlooks. But when I created this mural in Bloomington, I just wanted to create something that shows like why Dakota people, why Native people in this area built these burial mounds for thousands of years along the river, and where this is situated, which is near the Mall of America, the light rail station. When they built a lot of those buildings there, there was actually burial mounds there that they removed in order to build those buildings and all that. And the city of Bloomington, they had different partners funding this. And I didn't realize that the construction company that, you know, was the ones who removed those burial mounds. And this happened in the early 2000s. It wasn't something so long ago that they were actually funding it. And they were like really offended or taken back or defensive about my mural. I hadn't even put any thought into, you know, confronting them or realizing who they were, but they showed up to the meeting with the papers showing, you know, why they had permission, why tribes gave them permission to do this and that. And to me, I felt like they must still have all this guilt or something about what they did. If that's their reaction to this piece, you know, that they take it as if it's some kind of attack against them. So I think in the future, you know, like this mural, or this kind of work, I think can open the city to sort of, or those kind of companies to thinking about how they can make amends for their actions if they feel offensive about it to this day, that it must be something that bothers them. I've worked with other developments that have put like the Dakota land map in all of their buildings, that they do have Native residents and they want them to feel, you know, that they're being recognized as like community members. So it's weird for me as an artist to see such a wide range of reaction to my work from land developers. I didn't expect the people to be so defensive with this mural and show up with these papers. And I'd already finished painting it by the time that they started, you know, wanting to be defensive about it. So I told them too that if they didn't like this mural, they could just paint over it and erase Native people again if they feel so strongly about it. But, you know, it's still standing, and I hope in the future that, you know, can find ways for them to like work or something to memorialize the, you know, the graves that they dug up. And this is the seal of Minneapolis. So I was commissioned by the city of Minneapolis. I applied for a waterworks project they had, no, the public service building that they have, and they were looking to install window murals. And when I was thinking about my works and what I would create, that I thought about where this building is situated, what it means to Dakota people, and also what it means to the people living there today. And so they had this 30-foot seal of Minneapolis that they were reinstalling into this building that was in storage for like 30 years because it used to be on the old Civic Center. But I was thinking, well, I would like to create works that speak to that seal, I guess, from a Dakota perspective. And if you look at this seal, you'll see how Minneapolis was born from the mill industry, and how Owamini or St. Anthony Falls was destroyed in that process for their industrial age to become such a prosperous city, I guess. And so one way I thought about creating a piece that speaks to it is thinking, what is wealth to Indigenous people? So I created the Indigenous wealth, and there's two different sides to it. It's in two conference rooms that are side by side. It is 10 feet high by 30 feet width, and one half of it has two horses, and the other side has Dakota people. And there's a Lakota story that they obtained horses from these giant whirlpools, and the Awamini means whirlpool. So I just created these horses coming from the water from mills. And when Dakota people and Lakota people, when we had access to horses, knew we were able to expand our territories into the western parts of the Midwest, North and South Dakota and Montana and those areas. So our relationship and connection to the horse allowed us, to have this, I guess, wealth at the expense of other tribes, perhaps. That's another topic to discuss. But I think anytime that people want to expand who they are, there's always going to be conflict, and that's just human nature, unfortunately. But the way the mills became, from the water were used to create the wealth of Minneapolis, the horses, that helped us create the wealth of Dakota and Lakota people, the Chitichakawin. And then on the left-hand side, or if you're on the other reverse, because this is two-sided mural, you'll see, I can zoom in on the horses real quick. You'll see that there's like a Dakota family, and each of these people, they represent like the roles, traditional roles that people had in society. Like the Dakota man, he would represent the security of the tribe, the provider. Whereas the woman, she provided the home, the caretaking of the children. She was celebrated for her art forms and the art that she created, just as the man would be celebrated for his war accomplishments. So when you go to like an art museum, a lot of that work that's there is created by Native women, whereas like the Western art world, you won't see very much art created by women. I feel like that's a different way of thinking about art too, is that, Native women, we were never held back from expressing ourselves and putting, like our thoughts into the work we create. So like when the child is born, they create a cradle board and they decorate the board with, different symbols that they feel would protect the child or offer, feelings of love and good fortune. So that's also the value of the child to the community. So it's just showing each person's, their value in society. And that's also another form of Indigenous wealth. And then I wanted to create something that spoke to about Dakota values. And these 6 murals are actually right across from the Seal of Minneapolis. That other mural is up on the 6th floor, but this is right across. People will be able to see them side by side. And this is called Protecting the Generation. So I was thinking about concepts and values that, Dakota people believe in order to be Dakota people, and have this connection with the world around us. There's 6 window panels, but these 2 is called Wo Dakota and Wo Anina. Wo Dakota. Dakota means friends or allies, and Wo Dakota means, that idea of having good relationships with the entire world around us. And so this mural is sort of situated as if it's at Pipestone, Minnesota. It's kind of like an Art Deco version of Pipestone. You can see the petroglyphs that are there, but you can also see the Big Dipper, which is 7 stars, which represent the Chetichakawin, which is the 7 bands of Dakota people. There's also where it says Wo Dakota, there's actually like pipes, and you just see different imageries that represents, that pipestone is considered the blood of our ancestors. It's why it's red. So I feel like our ancestors, the pipestone guide us from below, and then the stars above shows us also who we are. So it kind of connects the land to the sky and what being Dakota is. Woinina, which is silence. So it's kind of like learning to be quiet in the world around us, like hunters long ago understood the importance of being silent in order to accomplish their duties as a hunter, as a provider for the people. So all of these murals have like a mother or father animal with a child, as well as like the Wool Dakota has our ancestors and the pipestone and the stars above us, and the teepee representing us living, you know. These murals have Wotakie and Wichoichage, which is, you know, having good relatives, and also the growth of the people or what we pass down through the generations. Wotakie has a bear and a falls, and I guess there's a story at St. Anthony Falls of a woman who she was married to her husband. He took a new wife. Because he didn't follow the proper protocols, you know, she felt like her kinship, she was being discarded. And so she sung her death song, they say, and went over the falls with her child as like, because she felt ashamed. And I feel like that story shows us what happens when you don't treat your kinship roles properly. And they say that her spirit could be seen as a bear that you could see fishing at times from that spirit island destroyed when they blew up the falls. So that honors the spirit that story of this location, that this building is nearby of St. Anthony Falls. And then the one with the two wolves, that's just northern Minnesota. So I was thinking of different areas of Minnesota that could also be represented in these murals. And then Bedeza and Wichohan are understanding, and then the responsibility or the way of life of being Dakota people. The understanding, you know, I think that shows the buffalo and the relationship that Dakota people have to the buffalo, and how we have old stories of how the order of society with animals around us came to be, and how humans were allowed to hunt buffaloes, and they would provide all these different things for us, you know, provide our way of life. And that was just an understanding and relationship that we had with them. You see historical photos of them massacring multiple heaps of buffalo skulls and everything. You know, I see that as like a failure to understand our relationship with the animals around us. So that's kind of that piece. And then Wichohan is the eagle. And we believe that like the eagle feathers and the eagle carries our prayers to Wakantanka, which is like the great mystery or the great spirit. And then the rainbow represents all the different spirits coming together to represent that spirit. And Wichohan is just a way of life that we have to live every day as Dakota people. So those are different values that if we want to protect the generations, that we would have to understand and live actively. So when I mentioned Wakantanka, you know, this is a quote by a Lakota chief, Luther Standing Bear, you know, that from Wakantanka there came a great unifying force that flowed in and through all things, the flower of the plains, blowing winds, rocks, trees, birds, animals. And this was the same force that had been breathed into the first man. Thus all were kindred and brought together by the same great mystery. Kinship with all creatures of the earth, sky, and water is a real and active principle. So some of the work I have been thinking of doing with more digital art is creating like augmented reality that connects our relationships with the earth actively at locations, because sometimes, you know, it takes forever to get permission from whoever has ownership of property to create these sort of artworks on this land. So augmented reality allows me to, you know, go around that. But before I get to that, you know, this is just talking about the relationship that we have with Unshimaka, Grandmother Earth, how we dress her, how we have different spiritual connections with different aspects of the world around us. And this is just the creation story of the universe. You can sort of long detailed story in the Lakota myth by James Walker, but it just talks about how the beginning became, how all the spirits were formed, eventually how the earth was formed and the universe, and then how animals came, how people came. So it's sort of like the Big Bang Theory, how that starts out, and then how the solar system is formed, how the earth is formed, how life forms. So it's very similar in that way of thinking, I guess, but it places us not as the center of attention, but also gives us connection to the meanings of the world around us. So if you have time, if you're interested in learning more, I'd recommend like the Lakota Myth. But some of the work I've created starts placing these Dakota spirits at locations. So this is an illustration I created a few years ago of Unchi Macaw, Grandmother Earth at Burial Mounts Park in St. Paul. I placed her in modern clothing so that people could see that these concepts are real and active things that we believe in to this day. And that Burial Mounts Park, there used to be 40 burial mounds, and they destroyed many, so there's only like 6 left. And then there were sacred caves that were destroyed for the train, the railroad industry, and then there's shipping yard, and then there's an airport down there that also I built on top of our old village site. So you can see behind her is all the silhouettes of industrial events that happened within the past couple hundred years, but you know, our connection to the land is still here, and people have been restoring this site with plants, native plants, and Dakota teaching. So it also shows that despite the fact that things may have been destroyed, that we can still reclaim and revitalize these traditions to the land as we repair our relationship. It's not all lost, it's not all hopeless. At Wakan TPK, which is also at Burial Mounds Park, there used to be petroglyphs, and inside that cave, they said it was safe for women to go there and give birth. So that's where they often would. And there were all these paintings of rattlesnakes because we believe rattlesnakes protect the medicine. And so this illustration just kind of shows that they say no rattlesnake has ever bitten this Dakota person, or like gentlemen or gentlewomen, that they warn us with their rattle that they have a very strong power and that we should respect it. So we don't see them as something that needs to be harmed the way maybe Western ways treat snakes. But this just shows that in modern times, you know, this cave is sealed off. The atrium was destroyed. It had these petroglyphs in it, but people still come to the site and leave their prayers for the spirits that live. And then we like Jim Rock, he's a Dakota astronomer. He talks, I have an animated video, you can look him up on YouTube, but he talks about, you know, what Wakan Tipi, how that has connections to the stars above as like star knowledge. And he talks about the Kapamini, the spirit world, and the star knowledge, and why that's important, and why, you know, we live next to such, it's kind of like living next to Notre Dame, but a natural version of it that I think more people should learn about and appreciate and, you know, take something from it. And this is just a Dakota star map that I've created of the constellations. I'm working on animating this and creating coloring pages from it that, you know, talks about what each constellation means and making those free for everybody to learn about Dakota star knowledge. And so I started working on augmented reality, and I have the Dakota Spirit Walk. I believe augmented reality is like perfect metaphor for, you know, a native presence, that our histories and our stories are here and invisible to many at the moment. But, you know, you only need to look with new eyes and to see the deeper powers held here. And so this technology brings that ancient knowledge into the present for future generations to access. And augmented reality, if you don't know what it is, like using your phone's camera to place art, whether it's 3D art or animated art, and sounds, and at locations at whatever the camera is pointed at. So I created a Dakota Spirit Walk with a collaboration with Pixel Farm and Momoba, as a time they were called, but they've changed their name since then, but it's still the same concept. You can look up this information on the website if you want to access that, but it's at Burial Mounds Park. And when I was creating the pieces, this is kind of like what it looks like in the art forms. But when you go to the Dakota Spirit Walk, you meet 4 different spirits. You meet Uchimaka, which is Grandmother Earth. You meet Iya, which is Grandfather Stone. And then you're going to meet Umtehi, which is the underwater serpent. He protects the waters. And then you meet the Thunder Being, who, you know, represents the balance, that they protect us, but they also we're out of step as human beings in our relationship to the land. And this is sort of what the installations look like through your phone. They play out a story, they animate, they grow, they surround you, and you can interact with them. You can take pictures with them. So it's a pretty fun way, I think, of being able to place these spirits at the location, for people to understand how, like when I look at these places, this is kind of what I see as a Dakota person, and then making this accessible through art for anybody to access. And some people have already gone on the Dakota Spirit Walk and they've given me feedback, like wondering, you know, how can they help clean up this park now? They're wondering what they can do to acknowledge Dakota people and our connections to the land. And it's just opening their eyes to this, these stories, and not actually telling them what they need to do or they need to fit in type of way. Just providing these stories to them is enough to make them want to change their actions. So I feel like happy with the impact it's had so far. And I'm working on Foreground, which is the Midwest Land Art Biennial. And I'm sort of expanding that spirit walk from the Burial Mounds Park to other sites. So like my land map, you'll be able to see these augmented pieces at these different sites. And so I was thinking about Minnehaha Falls and Coldwater Springs, Fort Snelling, and Oheawahi, which is called Pilot Knob. And then these are just some play around pieces I've been messing around with, but this will be like on a website that people will be able to click the link and activate, and there'll be free resources as well for people who don't have the technology, so they'll have access to coloring pages and stuff too, because I want to make this knowledge can be dispersed in different forms that people can access, and it shouldn't be limited by your ability to access technology. And in the Highland Bridge development, me and Rory Wake 'em Up were selected as the artists to create works at this new park called Unchimakat Park, which is Grandmother Earth Park in St. Paul, where the old fort plant used to be. And so I was going to paint murals and create augmented reality stories that show the creation story at this site. And the murals would sort of work as like a theater, like the backdrop to these stories that would play out there. So these are just the pictures of the development before the park opens. And that should come out in about September, I believe. It's when everything should be finished. And I've written books, illustrated books, I mean, and so these are just a couple. And illustrating books is started the Dakota Publishing Company, which is called We Are Unkipi, which is we are capable, or it means we won't be defeated, we will win. Just a positive way of whenever you say the company's name, you're sort of encouraging yourself to do your best. I'm working with 5 different authors and illustrators to publish their writings and their works, and then I'm also doing free coloring pages, free books, like these sort of books have plant knowledge and Dakota phrases and teaching people how to speak Dakota. And then I'm also working on like big artworks that have like this Hanwi, which is star knowledge. It's like a massive work, but also taking that information and putting it into worksheets so people can study the art and also be able to have worksheets or coloring pages that go with it to teach it in classrooms. And that pretty much ends my presentation, to end with being generous as an artist, because that's important as a Dakota person, is the spirit of generosity. So thank you everybody for listening. If anyone has questions, or if Wesley wants to ask anything, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, since one of the privileges I get for hosting this is I get to ask the first question. I wanted to say, I forgot to hit record like the first 2 minutes of your presentation. So I do have a question about composure time. So I was wondering if you could bring that back up on your screen just so we can have a point of reference. Talking about public art and murals, I think there's public art is rooted in activism and political engagement. And with composure times and Capemini, as what I guess you would call more like those traditional public space art pieces versus your augmented reality pieces. I see. As far as style goes, I see like this Composure Times as a kind of a different style from your other work. I think mostly due to like the light blue background or more like a flat, not necessarily a flat background, but I think stylistically it kind of is different from a lot of your other work. I was wondering if you could take a little moment and like talk about your approach to this specific mural when like, juxtaposed with Capemini and then your work with indigenous wealth and protecting the generations.
Sorry. When I have access to digital art, like digital materials, when I'm creating those vinyls, I can do a lot more detail than at work. But painting, I can't do as much detail, I guess. I mean, unless I spend more time on it. But this is like the first mural I've painted in a very long time. And I've only painted one other before it. So I didn't really know my capabilities. I didn't want to overwhelm myself in the first one. But when I painted the background solid blue with the river sort of going through it, I was thinking about Minnesota itself. It means clear waters reflecting the blue skies. So I just wanted to capture, like when you see this image on a clear day, this mural, you see the blue and you see the blue skies, so it interacts with like the natural world around it. This area is sort of like a warehouse district, so there's not a lot of like beautiful buildings. They're planting more trees in this area because there's not a lot of trees there either, and they're currently building new condominiums there. So they're trying to make it residential, but currently it lacks like natural elements. So that's also something I wanted to provide to the residents that will be seeing it every day, is just something that's positive in connection to the nature around it. And then Kapemini, I was just thinking about something more traditional in our geometric shapes. And when I was thinking about the burial mounds, so that's why I think perhaps they are different. Like one is more, oops, I can't go back. One is more features like figures and stuff. And I think the evolution of like Lakota art, it started out very geometric when we had bar flesh bags, when we had beadwork, and when we had quill work, and when we had access to beads, that's when you saw people starting to bead figures and human figures in their art forms. And they say that that painting figures came from the men's way of painting on their and on their teepees. They'd paint their war accomplishments. They paint battles. So if you go to Minneapolis Institute of Art, you can actually see like one of their teepee covers that has a battle illustrated by someone who fought in it. So I mean, I think this is seeing the figures as maybe more of a male art form, and then this is more of a female art form of geometric shapes that women would put out their abstract, put their feelings into abstract thinking. So I think that's the tradition I was thinking of too. Is nowadays people do both types of artwork, but originally they had roles in our gendered society, you know, like the male did this, the female would do this in society. So I think it's cool that you picked up on those differences. But I think, you know, I was just thinking about our traditions and how art evolved as among our culture and who could use it and what it meant and how it has evolved since.
Oh, Miigwech, I love all. I mean, I love your art style, and I just saw that I wouldn't necessarily call it a stark difference between like that geometric heavy composition to that composure times, but I think like I don't know if it's like that blue. It has to me it has more of a calming effect on when I'm consuming it, you know, versus your more geometric heavy pieces, which I think are very, very good and dynamic and powerful. But it just puts me in a different, I mean, it gets more of an ease, and I think that goes into what you explained, the motivation behind the mural, of like coming in as a place of understanding in connection. So I think that's for me, it translates visually to the philosophical question or theme that you're posing there.
Mhm.
Back as a kind of a follow-up question to the public art. Do you see public art, like, so with your augmented reality work, I kind of see that as like experiencing it. Like, you obviously you're gonna need technology to really see the art and live with the art, but once you live it and walk with it, like, you kind of carry it with you.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people take it for granted, pieces of art that are on canvases or on wall, that it's just there physically in the space that you can see and touch. Where do you see augmented reality moving forward in terms of the aesthetics of public art, or even art as activism?
I think it's pretty important. I mean, I think, as human beings, we live in space and time, and I think inert, like these kind of murals are just inert. It's just a space that is now occupied by art, whereas like augmented reality lets you put stories and movement and like basically like creating like a movie or an experience around you that incorporates time, that I think a lot of art doesn't have, like movies and television. It's kind of like a recent invention that we're allowed to create art over time that has, we live through it. And so I feel like when people watch movies, when they watch a television show, it can change their life. It can change the way they think if it's done very well. And I feel like augmented reality is a way that like visual artists can create those kind of experiences at sites too. Like, I feel like it allows us to evolve our thought form. So I feel like augmented reality, when I've had people see the works I've created and already thinking about things they can do where they live and the stories they can tell. So I think, like, I'm pretty interested in seeing how it's gonna. I grew up watching Star Trek as like one of my favorite shows, and the holodeck. I always dreamed about going to holodecks. I feel like augmented reality lets us create that experience. I guess we all have this powerful phone with us, and I mean, we have the technology here with us all the time. We can use it for other things besides Facebook and Instagram. So I don't know. I'm excited for where augmented reality can go.
There's a question here, just to kind of pick around the chat. There was related to the augmented reality from Amanda. It says, thank you for sharing. These are beautiful, meaningful works. For augmented reality, have you encountered technological barriers with older generations? And do you suggest, are there any strategies to make it increasingly accessible?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some people say it's difficult with them. I'm like, well, maybe that's a good time for you to spend time with your grandchildren or young people. You get them connect with each other. Because I was saying, like, I think young people listen to their kids more than say they'll listen to me. So if I teach your kids something and your kid goes home excited to teach them about it, they'll listen to their child, just because they have that connection with the young one. So maybe it's a good time for just older people to listen to what young people can say, because we always teach that we should listen to our elders and stuff. But I feel like the younger generations, they already have like a better understanding of like gender identities and different ideas of what that can mean. So, I just feel like they're faster at progressing with times. And I just think it could be an experience for like the families to interact with each other.
I'm going to ask one more question here because we're getting close, and I'm going to give some other folks some time if they want to type in a question. But connecting to your first solo exhibit, and how you utilize that shared experience of trauma and toxicity with colonialism, and especially how it's from the lens of Russian colonialism and imperialism, I guess. Can you speak a little bit about that journey and connecting these threads of, I I guess when you're viewed through the lens of colonialism and indigenous communities, not only in the United States, but of course we have indigenous communities across the globe. I know it's a big, heady kind of question, but if you can just maybe just touch upon a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, since that culture, that history is necessarily my history as like a Dakota person. We've had different interactions with Europeans, but there are some similarities where there are some missionaries or there's some monks that wanted to do good, and they would protect Native people from the ones who were trying to take use of their expertise as hunters, as of their industry, rather than like when Russian people came there, they never really had intentions of making a colony just because it's too far away, but they wanted to obtain the resources there, like the fur trade. And once the animals became almost extinct, they didn't really have a reason to be there anymore. And so a lot of their comments were about exploitation of the people as like slaves, pretty much, I would say. And then there's the priests who would undermine those type of people to protect the Native people there. And the differences there too, I see, is like the Catholic Church here sort of was always in control, whereas like the Russian monks, they would try to educate or teach the indigenous people there about their religion, and then let them who teach it in their languages and then in their ways of their culture, to sort of incorporating Russian church teachings with the teachings of people there. And so a lot of their languages have been sort of taken from them just through when America took over Alaska. They started to force assimilation on the people and make them speak English and take their native languages away from them. And so the early activism by the church of the Russian monks, that has saved a lot of their older ways of speaking, because they have songs in their languages, they have written texts in their languages. So for me, it was a learning experience about not everything was conflict. There was big conflicts, but it allowed people to preserve parts of their culture that they can reclaim in today's era, because I feel like that's an important thing for Native people today, is to reclaim this data that's there and recover what was lost. And we can't undo the actions of like the European colonizers, but we can, salvage what we can to build a better future. So I don't see it as all hopeless or blaming people in the past. I mean, I feel like that's not productive to a healthy society and creating a better future for kids, is to always focus on how we were victims or something like that. But it is negative. I don't want to spin it some positive way or lie to myself that these bad things didn't happen. But I mean, I feel like it's just human nature. It's like gray areas. It's not necessarily one way this and one way that. You have to look at it from different perspectives of why people were motivated to do the things they were doing.
Yeah, I see a lot of just from your answer and reading your article, looking at your work. I see a lot of people more often or not are connected to a shared experience, especially in terms of indigeneity, and oftentimes that can be not really rooted in something positive about the culture or history, but it's more about trauma and abuse, which I think can really the dominoes will fall with that. But I think acknowledging it and like underlining that shared experience too, I think is important. And I lied. I got one more question. It's not as intense answer. It's more of a technical question about your digital work. On average, how many layers do you work with?
Pretty much like hundreds. I don't know.
Hundreds,
maybe thousands.
Yeah.
Illustrator, most people use maybe 3 layers at the most when they're just creating simple icons. But my computer can handle it, so I'm like, why not?
Do you have any tips for managing those layers? I mean, if for any aspiring digital artists or an old, someone who's kind of dabbled a little, do you have any like strategies or best practices, like kind of managing, your workflow or that many layers?
Yeah, I mean, definitely label everything, give things names, spend 1 second to give it a name of what it is. If it's the background, if it's shape layers, or what shapes it is, the foreground people layers. and then make separate versions when you expand things, so that you can always have a version you go back and edit. I don't know. It's just thinking about organizing, I guess, as to yourself, like how would this best work for your own brain. Sometimes if there's measurements and colors and stuff, I'll just type notes to myself in the margin, so that future me can remember what I need to do. Otherwise, I will forget if I'm trying to remember everything. So just let the computer be your brain for you in some sense.
Oh, dame do miigwech. So unless there's any other questions from our attendees here in the chat, give a minute or so here. But you know, I could ask questions all day, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stop there for myself. And I just want to say, Padame miigwech. Really, I love your work. I love you know, where activism, art, language, culture, history, space, they all come together, you know, and I think you know, you're doing wonderful and important work, and I think it's great. And for any up and coming artists who see your work out there, I think you're an inspiration, even to old artists like myself. So
Well, I see older artists getting into digital art, you know, they're proud of buying their first like iPad and start drawing things, and they're like, all you kids are into it, you know. So I think, you know, if we get some of the older artists who can paint very well, get into digital art, you know, I think that'll also inspire younger artists too, to see our art forms being done by experts who can maybe paint it, and also being able to learn from young people on how we use technology. And I know some of them too, they want to connect their ways of creating art with their kids too. So I feel like, you know, creating digital art or digital forms of art, you know, connects families. I know a lot of like quote unquote boomers would be like, you kids need to get off your phones and go play outside. But maybe maybe everybody needs to connect around technology and sharing their teachings through it too, as a tool, not just see it as like an opposing thing, you know, that's just distractions. It's like what we do with it. So I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how more elders, I see more elders getting on Facebook too and teaching a language and doing videos and stuff. Like they're always saying like, oh, people told me I should just start making videos where I talk about the language and talk about our stories and the language too. So I'm happy to see, you know, elders accepting technology and seeing the use that it has and the traditions that it connects to people of all ages who use.
Can I make a quick comment? I was not familiar prior to this presentation and even just putting together the flyer for this event of digital art, especially native digital art. And so when you were going through your pictures, it's, I mean, the murals are powerful, and even the stories behind them are even better. But the digital aspects, even like the 6 murals, like there's such an emotional reaction you get from that type of art. Like it is an experience. Like there's so many elements that you could sit there and look at it for hours, and just looking at them, I was like getting teary-eyed because they were just so emotional with all of that's going on, and the stories, like the fact that people's brains work where you can pull so many ideas into an actual something to present is just like so amazing. So I really love your work. I'm going to go on your website and definitely do the spirit walk, but it was beautiful art. So I was really glad to be a part of it. It is inspiring. That's the exact word I was going to look for, Wesley.
Yeah, well, thank you for that feedback. I'm always interested in knowing what people think about digital art and their connection to it and how it can grow, and, you know, just opening your eyes to it. Like you said, a lot of people never seen much digital art, or they don't think too much of it, but they see the work I do and they're like, oh wait, you know, maybe I will change the way I think about it and react to it. So
thank you so much, Marlena. Do you have anything you want to promote? Any up and coming shows or projects you're working on? You know, anything you want to like get a little more publicity for?
you can just follow my Facebook page or my Instagram if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. I mean, I have to look at my calendar to remember what I'm doing next. There's so many things going on. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to use up my brain to try to remember, but I always post on my Facebook, my professional page, my Instagram page. If you follow my Twitter page, you're going to hear about basketball and like professional wrestling and all kinds of random things. I don't recommend my Twitter if you want to just learn about my art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry for people who follow my Twitter page. It's too professional. I'm like, I made this just to be on Twitter, you know, but yeah, just follow my Facebook and Instagram and you'll learn or see what's up and coming. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming to see everyone's little comments.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you again. I'll let you go. It was a great, wonderful Native Artist Talk. And I'll be looking for your work. I'll be doing. I used to live within walking distance of the Bruce Bento and Sweet Hollow area, and I moved out of there within the last year. So I kind of like, just like the convenience of seeing your augmented reality tour, but definitely going to make the schedule and experience that as well. So
yeah,
again,
yeah.
Miigwech and Padame.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, that's the Native Artist Talk for this semester. Thank you for joining us. We will make this recording available through our social media. So look for that. And everyone have a great day. Be safe, be well, be happy, and fight the good fight.